I'm sticking with you, 'cause I'm made out of glue. Anything that you might do, I'm gonna do too. You held up a stagecoach in the rain, and I'm doing the same. I saw you hanging from a tree, and I made believe it was me. I'm sticking with you, 'cause I'm made out of glue. Anything that you might do, I'm gonna do too. Some people go into the stratosphere, soldiers fighting with the Kong. But with you by my side, I can do anything. When we swing, we hang past right and wrong. I'll do anything for you, anything you want me to. I'll do anything for you. Whoa, whoa, I'm sticking with you. Whoa, whoa, I'm sticking with you. Whoa, whoa, I'm sticking with you. Welcome to another exciting episode of The Unrelenting Alchemist, bringing you all spirituality all the time, talking to you today about more cosmology, about spirit beings, nature and the sacred relationships, and how a certain particular type of set of beliefs might influence a culture's worldview. So for today, I want to talk to you about the Ojibwe Pantheon. They're also known as the Chippewa people or the Anishinaabe people, and they've long held a deep spiritual relationship with the world around them. This relationship is not just one governed by hierarchy or separation, but by interconnectedness and reciprocal respect. Unlike the god kings of Olympian mythology, or say the monotheistic deities of the Abrahamic religions, the Ojibwe's worldview is extremely animistic. All beings, animate or inanimate, are alive, conscious, and imbued with spirit, Manidoo. This includes animals, plants, rocks, rivers, winds, dreams, ancestors, and even celestial bodies. And so that's why this video today is going to talk to you about the Ojibwe Pantheon of Animism, detailing the central spirit beings, the mythological foundations, and also the deeply relational worldview that they help to sustain, drawing from the oral traditions that have been passed down from generation to generation, their historical records, and their indigenous teachings. It's going to highlight how the Ojibwe view divinity not as ruling from above, but from living among and within. Through Manidoo, the spirits, and Anzukanag, which are the sacred stories, practices like vision quests, offerings, the Ojibwe maintain a dynamic reciprocal relationship with all that is divine and sacred. So let's go to the foundations of Ojibwe spirituality. And at the heart of Ojibwe cosmology is the principle of Manidoo, or Manitou, sometimes it may be called, the spiritual essence present in all things. In the plural form, the Manidoo refers to the spirits, the benevolent or benevolent, the grand or the minute. Rather than separating gods from nature, the Ojibwe spirituality fuses the divine and the natural into a single field of relationship as well as agency. Another cornerstone is the Mino Bimadziwin, which is the good life or living well, which means living in balance and a utmost respect for all beings. The Ojibwe do not worship gods as external authorities, but rather they honor spirits through respect, through ceremony, and through the recognition of mutual dependence. Each plant, each animal, each direction, each season, each celestial body holds something sacred within it, teachings, power, and even an aspect of personhood. The Ojibwe creation story and oral traditions are passed down through the Adzukinag, right, which are the sacred stories told during the winters. These tales are not mere fables, but rather they are living repositories of cosmological truth, ancestral wisdom, and ultimately spiritual law. So let's talk about the Gichi-Manidoo, which is the great or grand mystery. The supreme spirit in Ojibwe belief is Gichi-Manidoo, also rendered Kichi-Manitou, the great spirit or the great mystery. Unlike a god who issues commandments, Gichi-Manidoo is the source of all life, of all essence, and all consciousness. This being is often described as a pure spirit, unfathomable and unknowable in its entirety, particularly not in this 3D realm by any of us, but rather than demanding some sort of obedience and fealty and worship, the Gichi-Manidoo manifests creation and gives the world its spiritual structure. The Gichi-Manidoo created the first four beings or elements of the world: wind, water, fire, and rock, and imbued each with its own spirit. In so doing, the great mystery set the sacred wheel in motion, where each being had a role and a function. The Gichi-Manidoo also created the four directions, or the thunder beings, and the spiritual caretakers of each respective aspect of nature. Importantly, the Gichi-Manidoo is not separate from the world, nor is it gendered in a fixed way. Rather, think of it as the breath of life, the consciousness in all things, and the mystery that connects all together. Almost like the concept of Ubuntu, which I've discussed several times on this channel. Let's talk about the thunder beings, the Benesse Wag. Among the most revered spirit beings in the Ojibwe pantheon are the Thunderbirds, or the Benesse Wag. These powerful beings dwell in the western sky and are guardians of morality and justice. When thunder rumbles, it is said that Thunderbirds are flying. It's almost as if one could almost imagine being able to place cowrie shells before these beings to show reverence. When the lightning strikes, they are defeating evil spirits, or they're cleansing the earth, or they're clearing the path. The Thunderbirds are not merely weather phenomena, but they are in their own way sacred enforcers. They punish greed and corruption and protect the integrity of the world. In many stories, they battle with the underwater spirits, the chaotic forces that threaten the balance. Together, these sky and water spirits represent the tension between order and disorder, between discipline and, on the other corresponding end, the aspect of wildness. In ceremony, the Thunderbirds are honored with tobacco offerings as well as drumming. They're also deeply connected to vision quests, where they may appear in dreams or even omens, and they have this power they can grant to warriors, to leaders, and to shamans. Let's talk about Mishipeshu and the underwater spirits. In the depths of the Great Lakes and the rivers dwells Mishipeshu, the underwater panther or great lynx, who rules over water and its spirits. The great lynx is a formidable being, often portrayed with scales, horns, and a serpentine tail. Mishipeshu is both feared and respected, as he controls storms, currents, as well as the hidden forces of water itself. The underwater spirits represent a form of mystery, danger, and the unknown. In this sense, they challenge arrogance, and also they call out dishonesty. The Mishipeshu can cause drownings or pull down those who do not respect the water or its spirit guardians. But Mishipeshu is not evil. His role is to uphold balance through challenge and consequence as it occurs in the day-to-day. Now, those who gain the favor of water spirits through dreams, through the favor, by fasting, by offerings, may very well be granted power over healing, purification, and even emotional insight. As the element of emotion and life force, the water in Ojibwe cosmology is sacred, and it must be treated as such with the utmost of divine reverence. So let's talk about the Nanabozho, the trickster and the culture hero. One of the most beloved and central figures in Ojibwe sacred stories is the Nanabozho, or the Wenabozho, which is the great trickster, the teacher, the shapeshifter, and the cultural hero. He is neither a god nor a man, but rather a Manidoo, born of spirit and human lineage. Sent by the Gichi-Manidoo, Nanabozho helps bring balance to creation, teaching people how to live, how to survive, how to hunt, how to laugh, and how to make it through this very tough world. Nanabozho is often somewhat mischievous, humorous, and also likes to use cunning to solve problems, may even mock arrogance, or even find ways to escape danger time and time again. In other stories, he brings gifts, fire, language, Midewin, the Grand Medicine Society, and the sacred teachings. His flaws are part of his charm. Through his mistakes, humans learn humility, but they also learn resilience. In many myths, Nanabozho helps recreate the world after a great flood, asking animals to dive beneath the water to retrieve the earth and bring it back. It is the humble muskrat who succeeds, teaching that greatness doesn't necessarily lie in strength alone, but rather in resilience, in perseverance, as well as persistence. So let's talk about the four directions and the medicine wheel. And I've talked about the medicine wheel in the past, although not recently, but I have definitely had a lot to say about the medicine wheel. A central cosmological symbol in Ojibwe belief is the medicine wheel. And this is a sacred circle representing the four directions: east, yellow; south, red; west, black; as well as north, white. And each direction corresponds to an element: season, time of life, spiritual gift, and animal guardian. And the east represents new beginnings, spring, childhood, eagle, as well as illumination. The south, by contrast, represents growth, summer, youth, coyote, trust, right? And to the west, we have introspection, autumn, adulthood, transformation, and bear. And to the north, we have buffalo, wisdom, winter, elder years. The medicine wheel reflects the cycles of nature and the human spirit in many different capacities. It is used in ceremony and in teaching and healing. The Ojibwe walk the wheel many times in their lives, and each pass brings them a deeper, more connected understanding to the self, the world, and the spirit, and how it all works together. The animal guardians of each direction are not symbolic. They are to be taken as literal spirit presences. Bears, eagles, wolves, deer, turtles, and other creatures are considered relatives as well as instructors, right? And they guide, protect, and sometimes test the individual on their spiritual path. As I was driving home last night, I saw at least three very young deer. I guess I'd call them doe. Kind of reminded me of Bambi a little bit. But, I was just so fearful for them because I didn't want them to run in front of my car. So the Midewin, or the Grand Medicine Society, is a sacred institution that preserves the Ojibwe spiritual knowledge and their healing practices. Its initiates, called the Midei, are responsible for maintaining relationships with spirits and also performing rites of healing and passing on teachings. The Midewin rituals involve many sacred songs and drumming, as well as herbs and the use of the Midei scrolls, which are birch bark pictographs that encode a great deal of spiritual wisdom and knowledge. The Midei are not priests in the Western sense. Rather, they are spiritual custodians. They are healers and they are moral guides. Their ceremonies mark the seasons, life transitions, and collective healing. Their sacred medicines, such as tobacco, sweetgrass, cedar, and sage, are used in offerings and purification rituals. Now, beyond the Midewin, the Ojibwe people participate in various seasonal ceremonies as well, such as berry festivals, rice harvest celebrations, sweat lodges, and pipe ceremonies. Each ceremony itself is an opportunity to commune with the Manidoo, and this is a time to thank the spirits, bringing back harmony, bringing back some sense of balance. let's go now into dreaming, as well as vision quests and personal spirits. In Ojibwe belief, dreams are not subconscious byproducts. They are, in fact, visits from the spiritual world, which is something, if you've ever listened to my channel, you know that I strongly believe in as well. That I receive many messages through the dreams, that the ancestors, the spirit guides, many beings can come into the dreams and portray very important messages. So they can even come from ancestors, guardian spirits, or even animals. And they guide the dreamer in their duties. They warn of dangers and they initiate them into spiritual worlds as each person becomes more experienced and more advanced and moves into a more difficult spiritual role. In Vision Quest, there's fasting done for dreams. There are pivotal rites of passage, especially for people that are very young. But after days of solitude and fasting in nature, the seeker usually receives a vision or a spirit helper, usually in the form of an animal or ancestral presence. This being becomes a personal guardian, providing teachings throughout the course of the person's life. Each person has a very personal spirit, Gichi-Manidoo, which guides their moral and spiritual journey. Maintaining this connection through offerings, song, and dreams is absolutely essential to one's physical health and purpose, as well as mental and spiritual health and purpose. The animal pantheon here consists of a lot of relations, but also of a lot of teachers. The animals are not below humans in terms of Ojibwe belief. I mean, it's almost like in India, where cows are regarded as divine and very sacred. So in Ojibwe, you have elders, you have teachers. Each animal bears unique medicinal power. The bear, the makwa, has healing, courage, and protection. The eagle, the migizi, has vision, leadership, and a sacred messenger. The wolf, the mayan, is a loyalty to intuition and pathfinding. The turtle, which is mishiki, is endurance, earth, wisdom, and the origins of land. The otter is a nagig, which is playfulness, joy, and feminine energy. The deer is the waswaskeshi, is gentleness, grace, and sensitivity. The beaver is the amik, which is industriousness, structure, as well as inevitable balance. And so the Ojibwe stories, they don't really speak of these animals symbolically, but as spirit beings that have tremendous agency. Some may come at times to test humans. Others may guide them in times of healing or survival. Hunting is never done casually. It is a spiritual act which involves a great deal of power, prayer, gratitude, and respect. Now, also within the Ojibwe beliefs, there is the death, there is the antilife, or the afterlife, really, and you have the spirit path. And so when a person in Ojibwe culture dies, their soul begins a journey along the spirit path, also known as the ghost road. This goes to the land of the ancestors. This path runs westward toward the setting sun. The offerings and the ceremonies help to guide the soul, ensuring it does not become somehow lost or stranded or restless. And so the Ojibwe funerary customs include great feasts, songs, as well as the use of sacred items like cedar and tobacco to protect the spirit. The soul may revisit loved ones in dreams, and ancestors may continue to guide the living. Importantly, however, death is not seen as an end. Rather, it is a form of transition into a different form of life with different rules. The spirit world is not separate from the earthly world. It may overlap and it may interact on some levels constantly. Now, what about colonization, resistance, and revival? Well, like many indigenous peoples of the world, what we call the fourth world countries, the Ojibwe suffered through profound disruption under colonization. They were forced to convert. They lost their land. There was a great deal of suppression of their ceremonies. And the change of their residential schools. The U.S. and the Canadian governments sought to erase traditional spiritual practices through the substitution of Christianization, as well as the legal bans on indigenous ceremonies. Yet the Ojibwe resisted, and their ceremonies were practiced in secret. Their sacred knowledge was preserved in their stories, their songs, and their memories of elders. In this way, not being in writing actually helped them to a large degree because the colonizers could not take away what they did not have access to. And so the resilience of the Midday, which is the power of vision quest and the guidance of the Manidoo, never truly disappeared. And so today, there is a powerful resurgence of Ojibwe spirituality. The youth are turning away from this sort of indoctrination. They're turning away from what they see as an attempt to bind them to one particular way of life. They're reviving language. They're rekindling sacred vocabulary. The elders are sharing teachings. The Pantheon of Animism is alive once again, not as something just in a museum or forest or lodge or dream for show and tell. No, this is the real deal in terms of returning to their way of life, their culture. So the Ojibwe pantheon does not consist of all distant, omnipotent gods or things like that. It's very dynamic. It's a relational system of spirits, ancestors, animals, and natural forces, and each are alive and each are deserving of respect. Through the lens of animism, the world is not made of inert matter, but rather of living relations in this very real sense, from the Gichi-Manidoo, the source of all, to the humble muskrat who shaped the earth. The Ojibwe cosmology teaches that power doesn't have to reside in some form of domination, but rather it's held in a balance, humility, and reciprocity. There must be some mutual respect. The spirits of thunder, water, animals, and dreams are not metaphors, they are participants in a shared cosmos. As the modern world seeks reconnection with their roots, with their ancestors, with nature, the Ojibwe worldview offers an ancient living wisdom that everything is alive and that everything is connected and everything is sacred. And as such, it should be given and accorded a certain amount of respect, time and time again. And so, in this note, I would thank you for joining me in the Sacred Hour. This has been the Unrelenting Alchemist. Until next time, I always warn you to walk wisely, to walk bravely, and when the dark calls, answer not with fear and with an attempt to flee, but rather meet it headstrong with fire and light. And if I don't see you, good morning, good afternoon, good evening, and good night. Please don't forget to like, share, and subscribe. I love you.